Coming to you from the Black Swan Media Studios, this is Fireside Chats, talking to the real difference makers in the world. Now, here is your host, John Crump.
And we are live on a beautiful Tuesday in Virginia, right outside D.C. We have some storms rolling in, but before we get into our guest today, let me just go ahead and say I really want to give a big thanks to MantisX. MantisX is the sponsor of today's podcast. What MantisX does is a training device that you put on your gun, and it helps you eliminate little twitches and stuff like that. It's really, really effective. I've been using it for about 2 years. So 2 years before they even became a sponsor of the show, I've been using it. I use it at the range, and I use it at home to help dry fire, because it actually improves my shooting while dry firing. It's awesome. You can find them at MantisX.com. Let them know that I sent you. Okay, let me also shout out my Patreon. My Patreon is patreon.com/John Crump. Become a member of the Patreon militia. Super chats are also available, or you can PayPal me at paypal.me/JohnCC. Just a reminder to everyone out there, all proceeds raised from the super chats, from my Patreon, from my book sales, which is, you can get a book at crumpy.com/giants. All that goes to my niece. My niece has DIPG, which is an aggressive form of childhood brain cancer. She's fighting that, and one of the things with that is it's very, very expensive to fight. But she is a fighter, and she is fighting that. Her name is Bella. There's also a GoFundMe at crumpy.com. GFM will redirect you to the GoFundMe. All right. Now that we got that out of the way, time to bring on my guest. You might have seen my guest on a viral video where he talks about gun rates in North Carolina. A very, very passionate speech. He's also the Senate candidate in North Carolina, representing the Republican Party, going against a bunch of gun grabbers there. He's also endorsed by Gun Owners of America, so you know where he stands on guns because of that. And his name is Mark Robinson. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm doing just fine, and I'm running for lieutenant governor, not senate.
Lieutenant governor, not senator.
Yes, sir.
I'll fix that. I have no
Yes,
idea.
Yes, sir.
Oh my God.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, Jordan has me interviewing a bunch of senators, and
you do not trust me. You do not have to explain. I know what it's like to meet a million people a day. So yes, sir. I understand. It's okay. I just want to make sure that you knew that we get it right for the folks out there. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I don't know why I even thought senator. Lieutenant governor of North Carolina.
Yes, sir.
That's a really big position, and you're not really a politician. So how did you come about?
Well, I guess, of course, there was a city council speech. That city council speech went viral just so fast. I mean, and I ended up having an opportunity to do so many great things. Got to travel all over. Been worked with the NRA. Been closely connected with Gun Owners of America, which is a great group. I've done so many things and had an opportunity to do so many other things. But ultimately, what we felt like is that the reason why we were behind that lectern that night was not to promote ourselves, but promote a larger idea. And that larger idea is freedom, the freedoms that God has given us in this nation, and protecting those freedoms. And so there's no better way to do that than to get into the political arena to try to make some solid changes for the present and the future that will preserve that freedom. And so that's why I decided to run for this office. I also did it because, I truly believe that the founding fathers didn't intend for those offices to be held by people with these qualifiers that we put on, that, you have to go to Harvard, or you got to go to Yale, or you got to have this degree or that degree, or, you got to be a, guy that's owned $1 million corporation. There's nowhere in the Constitution that says that has to happen. I think what is really missing in our government right now is the good old common sense that Americans are endowed with, and a lot of that exists in just regular blue collar folks, and that's exactly what I am. I am a regular blue collar worker. I was on my way to having a college degree, but I don't have a college degree, and I've never owned a big giant corporation or run a big giant corporation or any of those things, and there's nothing wrong with having those things or having done those things. But I think that folks that haven't done those things have a voice also in our government, and I think it's sorely being missed right now. And I want to show people that they can come in and take these positions and run for these positions. And that's one of the reasons why, like I said, we decided to run, other than the fact that there are things that we just really believe in, truly believe in.
All right, we got a question from our Facebook chat room, and it really does make sense. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you this. Why did you choose to run for lieutenant governor out of like all the different offices you could have ran for?
Well, we looked at other offices, and what we ultimately decided is our campaign is very issue based, and I think one of the things that we have to recognize is in order for issues to be confronted, number one, you have to speak up for those issues. I think that God has blessed me with the ability to be able to speak very well and very concise and very clearly on issues. And the lieutenant governor's position gives me an opportunity to have what many people call a bully pulpit, to push these issues, to talk about these issues, to bring them to the people, and make it possible that the legislature can pick these issues up and do something about them. And then that's the reason why we chose the lieutenant governor's office. We chose it, number one, because we do have the opportunity to push for the things that we believe in. And number two, because we'll be closely connected to many of the things that we are so passionate about, things like education, things like our economy. We'll be closely connected to those things. And so we tried to pick a position that would give us a wide an area as possible, wider area of influence as possible. And that's why we chose lieutenant governor.
Yeah, Link Card is saying that you should run for president.
I don't know, maybe down the road somewhere. I don't know. Maybe somewhere in the Twilight Zone. I don't know.
Right. Let's roll back to the very beginning where people first got to know your name.
Yes.
You went up in front of a local council meeting and you gave a very impassioned speech about the Second Amendment rights.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that. What made you give that speech?
Well, I tell you, you want the whole story? I can give you the whole story.
Yeah, I heard you didn't even own a gun at that point.
I did not. I didn't own a gun at that point.
Which, let me stop you there 1 second.
Yeah.
I want to say that right there shows a man that really cares about constitutional rights. Because at that point, it didn't even affect you. But you saw that, hey, this right is going to be infringed, and I'm there to protect rights. I have to protect that right. I'm sorry if I'm putting like in your mouth, but
no, you're not, because you're bringing up a point that I made. I made this point a lot in the early days after this happened. People asked me, well, why would you speak it up over gun rights and you didn't own a firearm? And this is what I would tell them. The exact words I tell them. I tell them, well, I don't have a lawyer on retainer either, but I would hate to have to need an attorney and wake up and find out that my right to an attorney had been taken away from me. Just because you don't own a firearm, you should certainly have the right to own one should you need one in the future. I mean, the right is supposed to be there. One of the reasons that I actually ended up going to that meeting was this. Most of my politicking, so to speak, in those days was being done through social media. And here's why. I was working full time in a furniture manufacturing facility, and I was going to school full time. I had made the plan to attend college, get a bachelor's degree, and then a master's degree, and then a PhD in history, because ultimately that's what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, was teach history at the college level. I was on my way towards getting my college degree, my bachelor's degree rather. As a matter of fact, I was taking my last 2 classes at UNCG here in Greensboro to get that degree, and working in a furniture manufacturing plant when I gave that speech. Now, my time was taken up completely by work and school, but I did a lot of political talk and a political commentary on social media. In fact, I wasn't really, I won't say I was unknown, but I had quite a pretty good following on social media. I had about 15,000 followers on social media at that time. Because I talked a lot about the Second Amendment. I talked a lot about law and order, all the things that I talk about on my campaign now, all these conservative issues. I was talking about on my social media platform on Facebook. Built up a following from 4 followers all the way up to 15,000, with just sharing my political beliefs and sharing my conservative ideology. Well, when I heard about this meeting, it came about because I was in the process of buying. I went to buy an AR-15, and many of my gun owning friends said the best place to buy one would be the Greensboro Gun Show, which comes to Greensboro every 2 years. Excuse me, twice a year. It comes to Greensboro twice a year. I had planned on going to that show. I was saving up money to go. When I heard that the Greensboro City Council has suggested canceling the gun show because of the shooting that happened down in Parkland, Florida. Now, being a conservative, being a person who is politically aware, and being a person who just believes in fairness and right and wrong, it automatically struck me wrong when I heard that these folks, these politicians were going to punish all of the people in Greensboro and many of the people across North Carolina that look forward to this gun show and depend on this gun show for their livelihoods twice a year. They were going to punish all of those folks for the actions of a criminal in Florida. Now, what happened in Florida was tragic, but that's no reason to punish all those folks or me because of what this individual did. And when I heard about it, I was very irate. Come to find out, they couldn't cancel the gun show. The only person that could was the Coliseum director. Shortly thereafter, I heard they were having a meeting about gun violence. They're again being politically aware. I understood what that meant. I knew they were going to try to put some pressure on that Coliseum director to cancel the gun show. And so I heard about that meeting the day of the meeting. I went to worked 10 hours, got off of work, went home and grabbed a bite to eat, and went right down to the meeting. I did not plan on speaking at that meeting. I had no plans on speaking whatsoever. But once I got down there and I heard some of the things that were being said, I just couldn't remain silent, and I had to speak. And what you heard was the cultivation of a lot of frustration on my part. Because I saw the government overreaching, trying to punish law-abiding citizens for what a criminal had done. And so that's how it happened. And then that's how it all came about.
Wow. That is a good thing. It's like they try to blame all gun owners for every time somebody does something bad with a gun, but they don't blame protesters for every time that there's a riot.
Right. Well, here it is.
They shouldn't blame all protesters for that, but
you bring up a good point though, because I've been telling folks this. We don't hold all doctors accountable for one piece of medical malpractice. We don't hold all drugs accountable for one bad drug. We don't do this with anything except guns. It's very odd to me that when a police officer shoots a criminal suspect, people blame the police officer a lot of times. But when a criminal shoots an innocent victim, people blame the gun. It is bizarre. It is absolutely bizarre. And it's all coming from a place of folks who want to end our Second Amendment rights. And that's been plain to me for many, many years. I spoke up against it for many years on social media, and I've spoke up against it for the last almost 3 years in person, because it's something that we've got to stop.
Yeah, it definitely is something we got to stop. The NRA is the only 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 group in the country that gets blamed for stuff that their members don't do.
Absolutely, absolutely. It is absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah, it is. I'm gonna get into the primaries a little bit because when you end up in the primaries against some really well funded establishment candidates that had all this money coming in from all these different Republican donors, big PACs, all this, and
Mhm.
you beat them. How did you do that? Because you beat them with a fraction of the money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we had a fraction of the money. You better believe it. I tell you what really set us over the top. There were three things that set us over the top. The number one thing that set us over the top was our message. We have a common sense message that touches on every issue that I believe that North Carolinians are facing right now, and that really Americans are facing right now. We are, and we're strong on those issues, and we have some really strong beliefs on each one of those issues that I think most North Carolinians believe in as well. The number two thing was our work ethic. We have a team that just work their butts off, and I was right there with them all along the way, and we really just worked hard. We really did. I mean, we just outworked everybody. We actually did a tour where we went across North Carolina, tried to make all 100 counties in a little under 2 months, and I'm not even sure if it was 2 months. It was a very short period of time, and we hit 98 out of 100 counties. There's a couple that I got to get back to and still, go get to, but we just worked really hard. That was number two. But we'll tell you what, the thing that I think really set us over the top was our fantastic volunteers. Our volunteers were great. I mean, we had people that worked the polls for us every day, rain or shine. We had folks that passed out literature on their own time. I mean, we had a fantastic volunteer base and still do. And we believe those are the things that are going to set us over the top in the general election as well.
Yeah, I think you're gonna shock a lot of people when it comes to the general election. Right now, it seems like we're really divided,
Mhm.
left and right. Um, and I think that plays into uh, the establishment. They want to split, but with candidates like you, I think you can reach across. Um, do you agree with that? That you can reach across?
I do agree that I do agree that I can reach across, but I do not agree that we're divided. I really don't believe that. I believe that there's a small minority of people in this country who believe in what the hard left believes. The agendas that we saw last week being pushed on the Democratic National Convention, who believe that under God should be taken out of our Pledge of Allegiance. There's a very small minority of people in this country who believe that. I think the overwhelming majority of people in this nation still believe in the time-honored traditions that made this nation great and will continue to make it great. But I think what we're seeing is a mass media that is working closely with that small minority to make that small minority seem like they're a huge group of people. I truly believe that in November, we're going to see a red wave because, quite frankly, people are tired of the foolishness that's coming from the far left. I mean, we have gotten to the point where now we've passed the point where we're telling children that they don't have to decide whether they're a boy or a girl. We've moved into the realm now of saying that we're going to disarm law-abiding citizens and defund the police. I mean, this has moved into complete lunacy. And the average American citizen is seeing it, and I think will reject it in November because I really believe that this nation is not as divided as we make it out. Of course, we don't agree on all issues, but the overwhelming majority of Americans love this nation, and they are not falling in line with what the far left is pushing. And if you looked at the Democratic National Convention last week, you can see that the Democratic Party has abandoned everything that is not far left.
Yeah. One of the things that really surprises me is that the same people who say we should defund the police because they're killing people are also saying the police are the only ones that need to have guns.
Exactly. They're
Uh,
also the same. They're also the same people that talk about my AR-15 being dangerous, but they support Planned Parenthood, which kills people, thousands of people daily.
oh yeah,
They talk with forked tongues, and they believe in, like I said, they believe in ideas that are abject foolishness, and they're just littered with hypocrisy, especially when it comes to the issue of guns. I tell folks this all the time. The folks on the left do not hate guns. Let's don't make any mistake about it. They do not hate guns. They love guns. The problem is they love to have all the guns. They want to have their armed guards behind their guarded gates while you are left struggling to survive with a baseball bat or a can of mace or whatever else you can get your hand on, because they banned high capacity magazines and AR-15s and anything else that is firearm for the average citizen to have. They don't mind having those things themselves. And as we can see in some other societies, Venezuela being one, and then we can travel all the way back through time. These leftist societies, these Marxist societies, these communist societies, they always have all the guns, always have all the power, and they always end up being despotic and become a terror to the people. So leftists don't despise guns. They love them. They just love to have all of them.
yeah. Sorry if there's a little bit of noise in the background. There's some construction going on outside.
I don't hear any. I don't hear any.
That's good. We're in like a studio, so there's noise dampening things, but for some reason,
construction noise is great. That's progress in action.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Okay, you bring up a lot of good points. And one of the things that I find really, really interesting is that the left is really embracing this culture of saying it's okay to loot, it's okay to burn down buildings and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And if you look at the battleground states, I follow polls. I'm a political junkie, of course. I kind of have to because of my job and ammo land and stuff like that. But Trump has really closed the gap in all these states where Biden had this huge lead, and now that lead is shrunk. And CNN, which is surprising, did a poll of why that is, and most people said it's because of the lawlessness that's going on and how the Democrats are embracing the lawlessness.
Right.
So I think that's exactly what it is. The lawlessness that's going on around the country is only a couple points behind COVID-19 as the most important issue.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think. So why don't the Democrats take a hard stand on this and say, "Hey, stop burning down places. We're not going to support that. We're going to condemn Antifa specifically."
I'm going to be honest with you. When we look at what we think of as the lunacy of the left, I think there's a little bit more to it than just lunacy. I think there's some long-term plans there. I think that they are willing to lose in the short term in order to establish a precedence that will settle in the minds of some young people in the long term. Which is why it's so imperative that we push back against this now and push back against it and show our young people how dangerous and detrimental this will be to them and their future generations down the road. This whole issue with law and order, it's amazing to me. I've never seen anything like it in my life. I open up social media and I look and I see people on there talking about, get police officers out of neighborhoods of color, and we gotta defund the police. And when are people going to realize that in a nation that's governed by the laws, by laws, a nation that's governed by a constitution, has to embrace law and order. You know, I think that we have had it so good for so long in this nation, and there's been so much peace. And even though we have very violent streets, some very violent places in this nation, that peace has become so prevalent in this nation that folks don't understand how bad things used to be. We have got to get folks to understand where we've come from in this nation as a people, and how we have been able to reduce crime in so many places because of a strong police presence. Of course, there are policing techniques that need to be better. You know, we can always do better when it comes to policing. But the answer is not to scrap the police. The answer is to perfect policing. And to give the police the things that they need to do in order to be able to do their jobs better. But I think that what we're seeing now, one of the silver linings of what we're seeing now with this entire thing of this encouragement of law breaking, is that these folks, these leftist politicians, are proving to the world who they are. And who they are is exactly who conservatives have been telling the world that they are. The Rush Limbaughs of the world, the Candace Owens, all of us. We have been, the President Trump, all of us. We've all been saying the same thing about these leftist politicians. And they're taking off the mask and they're proving every bit of it to be true. That there are folks that, number one, despise this nation and despise everything that it stands for. And number two, they want to create chaos so they can tear it down. And we definitely need to stand up against it, because if we don't, we're going to find ourselves in a bad place.
Yeah, hold on. Whoops, I accidentally sat on my phone. One of the other things that you bring up that I find really interesting, you didn't actually bring it up, but you made me think of it, is that the left has been pushing everyone away, but they've been pushing people together. Like, there's a big coalition of libertarians like myself and conservatives like you out there now. And I think that's because of the lunacy of the left.
Right.
Also, you also bring up the thing how they want police out of neighborhoods of color. But if you look at like recent polls, like in Baltimore and stuff, where they actually ask people, "Do you want police out of your neighborhoods?" Overwhelmingly, people were like, "Hell no!"
Right. Right.
So, what's their end game? Is my question about removing police from neighborhoods of color.
Well, you know, one could be very conspiratorial and say that they want to remove the police from these neighborhoods, so that these neighborhoods will fall into complete disrepair, complete chaos, and then cry out for federalization of policing. That's one of the things that I've often thought that is part of the so-called end game. Another part of that end game could be just to simply dismantle the police and replace them with some other type of function that's less effective, which would make the citizens even more dependent upon these politicians and government agencies. I'm not really sure which one is their end game, or what their end game is. But what I'm more focused on is what my end game is. My end game is to try to educate as many people as I can about what's going on, number one. And number two, to get in office and to make sure that the place that I'm at is free of that lunacy, and that we back the police, and that we back law and order, and that we make sure that our streets in North Carolina are safe for everyone. That's from the richest person to the poorest person. That's every stripe, no matter who it is. We need to focus on our own end game. That being that we make sure that we embrace law and order and make sure that North Carolina is safe for all of its citizens.
Yeah, I like how you bring up the point where we gotta worry about what we stand for. When I watched the Democratic the Democrats convention, it seemed like their message was, hey, we got to oppose Trump at all costs.
Right.
So I like the message where you're like, hey, we don't have to worry about them, that we got to worry about what we need to do.
Right.
What are the biggest issues facing North Carolinians?
as it pertains to what? You mean what
Like,
is it that,
what are the biggest issues that you are running on? Like, what's like
oh,
if you looked at like what people are concerned about in North Carolina, what are they most
well,
concerned about, and what are your plans to deal with that?
our campaign has been built on five different issues. Those issues being abortion, the Second Amendment, education, veterans care, and standing up for law enforcement. When it comes to abortion, you know, I'm 100% pro-life. I don't believe in abortion at all. I believe abortion is a spiritual stain, a spiritual and physical stain on this nation, and it's got to come to an end. I believe that Planned Parenthood is the organization that should be defunded, not our police department. And I believe it's the thing in the Black community that is really taking Black lives, and
And
that folks should stand up against. Excuse me.
I just want to throw something in there. A lot of people don't realize the founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Singer, was
Yes,
a devout racist.
yes.
And the Planned Parenthood was started for racist reasons.
Right. She referred to poor people, people of color. She referred to them as human weeds. So she was all about getting rid of human weeds. I grew up very poor, of course, Black in the South. I suppose she would consider me to be a human weed. So yeah, that's the number one. And when people ask me, that's what I tell them. That's the issue that I am most passionate about, is protecting the lives of the unborn. And we talk about that all the time. And we talk about these things in terms of how different our side of the aisle is as Republicans, how different we are from the other side of the aisle. Now, you take my stand on life. I believe that all life is precious. Unborn life should be protected. I know that babies in the womb are a gift from God. But now our current governor in North Carolina, who's a Democrat, he vetoed a bill that says that if a child survives an abortion and is laying on the table screaming for its life, that child does not deserve to have medical care, and that a doctor does not have to give that live human being medical care. The most defenseless human life on earth does not deserve medical care. That's what our current governor has said. He vetoed that bill. It was called the Born Alive bill, and he vetoed it hands down. And that's where we're at in this country now. We're not even talking about whether or not we should have the morning after pill, or whether or not abortion should be done in the first week of pregnancy. We're now talking about the difference between folks who love the unborn and people who champion infanticide. And then, there's the Second Amendment, of course. We stand up firm for the Second Amendment. We know what the Second Amendment is for. It's to protect our freedoms. It's not for hunting and, skeet shooting. It is to protect us and protect our rights and our liberties from anybody that may threaten our rights and our liberties. On the other side, like we said, they don't believe in that. They believe that owning a firearm is a privilege that can be taken away or given out, doled out a little piece at a time. And they also believe that they should be able to own firearms and you should not be able to as a private citizen. And then education, of course, we believe strongly in a parent's right to choose. And we believe in education itself. On the other side, they believe in the bureaucracy, and they believe in indoctrination instead of education. And then, of course, veterans care. We know our veterans deserve everything that they have earned. On the other side, they want to put our veterans in the middle or somewhere near the bottom. And then when it comes to law enforcement, the choice, the ideology couldn't be any different. We believe that our police officers do a fantastic job, and that 99.9% of them get the job done in a wonderful fashion every day, and that they should be funded and they should be supported wholeheartedly. On the other side, they believe that many of them have compared the police officers to the KKK and called them racist and joined along with the social justice warriors in saying that they should be defunded. And there again, the differences couldn't be clearer. So those are the things that we've been standing up for in this campaign. And by the way, we've been standing up for those things, like I said, for many, many decades. I've been standing up and talking about those things.
Oh, sorry, hit the button. The construction was going on, so I didn't want to interrupt you.
Yeah.
So you went like the my governor in Virginia,
Oh, Northam. Yeah.
Northam.
Yeah, Roll Ralph, he's something else. I tell you, he's something else. I feel for you guys, but I feel your pain because we've got one just like him down here in North Carolina. We really do, and
Yeah,
I hope that you guys can get him out of there and replace him with somebody much better.
yeah. Hopefully we will. We have one more year before we can do that. Uh,
Yes,
it's an off year, so it's only national uh, politics. Uh,
yes,
I like that you're running for lieutenant governor. I really do. Because I think you can get a lot done in North Carolina. And what people don't realize is politics usually don't flow down, it usually flows up. So if you can change it on the local level, the state level, it usually has lasting effects going up on the national level.
that's right. That's exactly right. I tell people that a lot, and I talk about people, especially young people. This, if you get your local politics straight. You most of the time you don't have to worry about your federal politics because your local politics won't let you federal. If you got bad federal politics but good local politics, your good local politics will keep your bad federal politics out. They'll take care of home, and that's what we need to do. We need to set the standards as close as possible. We say it like this: the closer the politician is to your front door, the more he's going to affect your front lawn. So we need to make sure that we understand that premise that all politics is local, and we need to take care of local politics, take care of home first.
Yeah, I really do. So you got involved with Gun Owners of America. They have endorsed you. How did that come about?
They were one of the first groups that reached out to me after the city council speech. We did a long, extensive interview. Eric Pratt came up and did an interview with me, and we've been kind of closely connected ever since. They understand that I am 100% no compromise when it comes to the Second Amendment, and I'm fighting for all the things that they're fighting for. And I believe that's why they have endorsed me, and we certainly appreciate the endorsement. Like I said, they are a fantastic group of guys that are doing great work all across the country, and we like to give them as much respect as possible.
Yeah, it's no secret that I'm the Virginia State Director for Gun Owners of America, and I
Yes,
talked to Eric and all them. Jordan, who is a Director of Communications, just is really impressed with your stance and stuff like that.
thank you.
He raves about you, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. When it comes to gun rights, you are definitely no compromise. GOA won't endorse anyone that's not no compromise.
Mm-hmm.
There is, like in Virginia, there is a huge anti-gun movement here, and
Right.
there's a huge pro-gun movement here, and we've been able
Mm-hmm.
to have some of the nasty stuff that they want to do, but a lot of stuff did get through. So we had to stop the bleed, and now we have to fight back for our rights.
Right.
In North Carolina, is there a big anti-gun push there?
There is, but I don't think it's as big as Virginia. I really don't. We have lots of people in our state government that, of course, are anti-gun and side with the gun grabbers. But I have not seen it be as vicious as what I've seen out of Virginia. What I saw out of Virginia was just disgusting when Northam took office, and I tell you, I was so proud of those all those thousands of patriots that went to Virginia and showed how protest is done. Protest is a person with a grievance who gets a permit and peacefully assembles and shows a sign with a slogan and makes a chant and makes their case known publicly and then returns home and gets politically motivated and politically active. That is a protester. And what the folks did in Virginia last year, I believe it was the ultimate symbol of that. You had all of those folks up there join together. no violence, not even a scrap of trash left on the ground when they left. That is a protest, and those were protesters. Contrast that to what we're seeing now. What we're seeing now, those folks are not protesters. They are violent thugs, hell bent on destroying American society and American cities and damaging property and taking people's lives and harming folks. We have got to make that distinction clear between protesters and criminals. But as far as the gun grabbers here in North Carolina, we have a Republican majority in our legislature, and we have such strong. I'm telling you, we have some strong Second Amendment advocates in this state who have held the line and made sure that the gun grabbers in this state have stayed in check.
That's cool. Being Republican does not automatically mean, well, North Carolina it does, but in other states like Florida and Ohio,
oh yes,
there's some Republicans there that are like really anti.
That's right. That's exactly right. We have some folks who unfortunately when it comes to gun rights, they lean left a little, and we don't like that. But in North Carolina, we have some very strong advocates here, and we've done a lot to protect gun rights. A lot more needs to be done, and we got a lot of folks to fight against. But so far, the fight, I believe, is going very well.
Yeah, what a lot of people don't realize is that gun rights have actually expanded.
Yes.
Especially 2004, there was an assault weapons ban and a magazine limitation. And that's now constitutional carries everywhere. Most states, actually all states now, and all jurisdictions have some form of concealed carry. Some are like not that good, like Maryland and New York. It's almost impossible to get. But then we have a bunch of states that went constitutional carry, and almost all states are shall issue states now. And the Heller decision. So we've actually won a lot of battles, but I don't think a lot of people realized how much battles that we have won. So it not only in gun rights, but all different types of rights. Do we not find out about that stuff, or is that stuff not published because the left controls the media and they don't want their defeats known, or why don't we hear about stuff?
I think a lot of it is that. A lot of it is the fact that as a lot of times as citizens, we don't really do our due diligence, our homework. But I think more of it is what you just said. What is oftentimes publicized in the mass media is simply their own agendas. And when they talk about things, they don't talk about what's been gained, what's been won, or even sometimes don't even talk about what's been done. They talk about what they want to happen, and they try to craft their messages to bring about what they want to happen. And a lot of times when it comes to gun rights, that's what we see. We see things ignored, and we see narratives preached instead of news being told.
Well, I think it extends more than just gun rights.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's in everything. It's in everything. I told somebody there was a picture on social media of a police officer trying to disarm an individual. It looked like he was trying to disarm an individual who had a firearm, and the police officer was a white male. The person with the gun was a white male. There appeared to be somebody behind the police officer who may have been some other ethnicity. And the photograph said, this is white privilege in action. And they had a circle around the gun on the white gentleman's hip and a circle around the police officer's empty hand, meaning he didn't have a firearm ready to shoot this guy. There was no explanation as to what was going on in the picture. There was nothing. I mean, there's no explanation. And oftentimes, that's what the news media does. They take a picture, and with little or no explanation, they don't explain what's going on in the picture. What they do is they craft a narrative around the picture to try to formulate what they want people to think. That's what they do. When they do that, not just with gun rights, but with every issue, from race to whether it be race, or whether it be President Trump, whatever it may be. They craft a narrative instead of telling the news.
Yeah, there was Vox is like one of the news organizations which I totally do not like.
Mhm.
One of their executives were talking, and they said we need to be the gatekeepers of information.
Right.
And to me, being a journalist, I was like, no, that's not what we're supposed to
That's
be.
not what.
That's not
Yeah, that's
journalism.
like that. That's right. That's like Andy Griffith used to say. That ain't what you're supposed to be doing at all. You're supposed to be doing something completely different. Our news media has basically they've lost their mind. They think that because they have a First Amendment a First Amendment right to ask you a question, that you don't have a First Amendment right to answer as you see fit. That's number one. And number two, they have taken a sacred, they've taken a, a a great responsibility that they have to be able to freely disseminate the news. They have taken it and turned it into their own personal playpen, where they are no longer talking about news. They are now pushing their own personal agendas, their own personal feelings, and crafting their own personal narratives. And if there's one thing in this nation we got to stand up against, it's got to be against this news, this mass media that is refusing to tell the truth and only wanting to tell one side of the story for one specific purpose.
Yeah, there's a separation with me between John Crump, the gun advocate, and John Crump, the journalist. And sometimes that pisses off some of my readers because they know me as John Crump, the gun rights guy, and then they read my articles, which I lay out the facts. They're fact based. I try to keep the opinions out of it, and they're like, "Well, why didn't you give your opinion on this?" I'm like, "Because I'm a journalist."
Right, right.
And I think there's less of us true journalists and more of commentators out there
Right,
now
right.
that try to say they're journalists. And that's fine. You can be a commentator and a journalist, but you got to keep that separate.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yes, sir.
It's something that drives me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with talking about journalism and your campaign, have you ran into issues with certain news organizations with your campaign?
No, not at all. We haven't run into any issues. I'm sure we will at some point. I'm pretty sure we'll probably rub some news agency the wrong way, and they'll come after us, and they'll probably call us all types of names, and they'll probably say that we're hateful or something. But it really doesn't matter to me, because ultimately those news agencies are not going to sway. Number one, not going to sway my beliefs, and number two, they're not going to silence me from saying what I believe. Because I believe there's high time in this nation that folks stand up and stop being afraid of these folks with these pens and pads, and stop being afraid with these guys with these cameras. Because when I look at it, ultimately I don't have to answer to these people. I'm a Christian, and I believe in God with all of my heart. I believe that the only reason why I'm sitting here now is because of His mercy and His grace. And I believe that ultimately, when I leave this earth, I'm going to have to stand in front of Him. I'm not going to have to stand in front of the president or Fox News or CNN or CBS or ABC. I'm going to have to stand in front of my Creator, and I'm going to have to give an account for what I say. If I believe what I say is pleasing to Him, that's good enough for me. I don't care if CNN doesn't like it or not.
Yeah, I brought that up because I found an article on you that they try to use the fact that you gave that speech about guns and you didn't own a gun. I was like, gotcha thing,
Yeah.
And to me, I was like, that's actually awesome. So that's why I brought that up.
Absolutely. That was the thing with me giving that speech. I gave that speech not because I just believe in gun ownership. It's because I believe in, number one, I believe in our Constitution. And number two, I believe that it's time for the average, ordinary, law-abiding citizen to stop letting out of touch politicians trample all over their rights. It's time for us to stand up, take our rightful place in government, and quite frankly, kick these bums out of office that are picking our pockets and taking away our rights. Get rid of them and replace them with some patriots that are going to stand up and do the right thing.
Yeah, there is a term called an insurgent candidate. I don't really like that because I think it makes a negative connotation, and I think that's on
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah.
So I use outside candidates, outside the establishment. I think that's more honest. Would you consider yourself an outside candidate?
I would, yes. I would consider myself an outside the norm candidate. I would. Certainly, I can't think of anybody I can really compare myself to politically, but I don't think we're supposed to have people to compare ourselves to politically. And I think that we need more people outside the scope of what we've seen currently politically. We need people to come into office who don't necessarily have political experience. We need people to come in office who have had citizenship experience, who have walked the walk of the folks that they're serving and understand what those folks are facing and understand what they're facing from the top to the bottom so that they can go into office and address those issues and try to make life better for the people that they're serving.
Yeah, that is what we definitely need. So you would say that you are more in it as a, because politicians refer to themselves as leaders.
Yeah.
And what I always say is, like, I really don't want a leader. I want a representative.
Right. That's right. A representative, a servant. That's what we're supposed to be. Elected officials are supposed to be representatives. We're supposed to be servants. Now, inside the offices, are we supposed to be leaders inside the offices? Is President Trump the leader in the Oval Office? Absolutely. But when it comes to the American people, he is the servant of the American people. He is there to make sure the American people are protected and that this nation is protected and the right thing is done by this nation. And that's the same way I feel about being lieutenant governor. I'm not being lieutenant governor because I want to be a big shot that looks at everybody and says, hey, I'm your leader. I want to serve the people of North Carolina. And by serving them, I mean, I want to make life better for them. I oftentimes say it like this. I'm a conservative, not because I want things to stay the same. I want things to be better. I just understand that liberalism and Marxism and communism and all those associated things are not going to make them better. What's going to make things better is solid conservative principles. And that only comes through having somebody who's going to go into office and take those principles with them.
Yeah, it's a scary time, really. If you look at, like, the rise of Antifa and the rise of all these Marxists, there was a clip of a KGB defector back in the 80s, 1984. He actually went on TV and he gave an interview, and he's like, "This is what the plan is. So it's not going to be a quick plan. It's going to take 30, 40 years, but this is the plan of Marxism in the United States. And if you don't wake up, this is what's going to happen." And I watched the video the other day and I actually tweeted it out because it's damn near like exactly what's happening right now.
It is.
Or the same time Pierre Rady said it was going to take, this is when it's going to happen over this many years, and this is going to happen. This is going to be at the tipping point. And it's like, wow, what he's saying is the tipping point, the social unrest.
Right.
When there's it's going to be like a major crisis. And basically the final play is to wait for a crisis because there's always going to be a crisis. So you just have to wait for it to happen. And then there's going to be this, and you push this. It's scary.
It is. We've said for many years, and I've been saying this for many years too, after studying the history of socialism or Marxism, since its inception, since its creation by Karl Marx in his writings with Frederick Engels, the Communist Manifesto. You read these things. You go back and you look throughout history. You look at the way the Russian Revolution transpired in the early 20th century. You look at the way the Nazi Party came into being in Germany. You look at the way communism took over China and then took over Cambodia and took over Cuba. And you can't help but see something called a pattern I learned about patterns when I was in first, second, third, fourth grade. You learn about patterns, how to identify patterns. And these folks always follow the same patterns. And for many, many, many years, conservatives in this country have been screaming from the rafters that the patterns are now in the United States. You look at what McCarthy said, Charlie McCarthy said back in the 1950s, and you watch how and see how a combination of leftist politicians and leftist entertainers and the mass media crucified this individual for saying the things that he said when what he was saying was absolutely true. And now we are seeing the dreadful effects of not listening to his dire warning that the communists and the socialists were here on our shores and infiltrating our government at the highest levels to spread socialism and Marxism across our country. And it's here now. And they're inside our gate, and we've got to fight back against them because they follow the same pattern. And if you look at the pattern that's going on in this country, you can mirror it with every other nation that socialism and communism has taken over in other nations.
Yeah, you are right. I have a friend that's he's extremely anti-communist, and we were talking to someone, and someone was like, "Why are you so anti-communist?" And he said, "Well, you got to remember, I'm a Cambodian refugee."
Oh, yeah.
And it's like I was a kid in one of the camps. He goes,
Yes.
900 kids in the camp. He's like, out of the 900 kids, 3 of us survived.
Wow.
Like that's not anti-communist.
I used to work with an individual whose family was a victim of the Khmer Rouge, and he talked to me on many occasions about how terrible it was and about how blessed he felt to be here in the United States, and wished that his deceased family members could have made it out of that nation and out from underneath that terrible system and here to see this freedom.
Yeah, you have like the Russian purge, and you have Mao's Great Leap Forward, which was killing off like 100 million. Great Leap Forward. And it just seems crazy that people think that it would be any different here.
It will not. It will be the same terror. But we can't let it happen. As patriots, we have to stand up and make sure that our freedom is secure for future generations.
All right. I only got a couple more questions for you. When you win, because I'm confident that you are going to win. A couple different questions about that. When you win, what is going to be the first thing that you try to accomplish?
Well, the very first thing I'm going to try to accomplish is to try to bring some common sense back to education. If there's any task that is, first off, a Herculean task, second off, important task, imperative task, not important, imperative task, it's going to be to wrestle the education system away from the left. The education system has become the personal project and playground of leftists because they understand if they have a hold of the education system, they can twist the minds of the youth for future generations. We've got to take that education system back from them. And I think that is the very first thing that I would like to work on, is trying to make sure that I have a voice on that state school board that would allow me to bring some common sense conservatism back to education in North Carolina.
All right. Final question. When you do win, am I invited to the victory party?
Absolutely. You make sure you send me your address, and we'll get you an invitation out as fast as we can. We just have to find a venue big enough to hold it in.
That is awesome. All right. I want to thank our sponsor, MantisX. MantisX can be found at mantisx.com. They make some of the best shooting training gear in the world. We're going to be doing a giveaway for our 2000th things. I had to rebuild. My Facebook, they killed. So I got 9,000 of our Facebook fans back on a new page. But we still thousands of what we were on Facebook. So that's why I'm trying to put everybody over to YouTube now, because Facebook has it in for me. I wrote kind of a bad article about them, so now they don't like me.
Of course, you're on the bad list.
No, I'm definitely on their bad list.
I
So
won't get a Christmas card either.
yeah. So when we hit 2,000 on YouTube, we're going to be doing a giveaway. Details about that is coming up. You can also support me on Patreon at patreon.com/John Crump. And you're not actually supporting me. What you don't know, Mark, is all the money that I make through YouTube revenue, I don't really get through Facebook revenue anymore. What I did make it through Facebook revenue, I'm not monetary, done a new channel. My Patreon, super chats, all that good stuff. My book sales, because I read books too. All that goes to my niece who has DIPG, which is
fantastic.
So fantastic. I get all that. So everyone out there, you can, if you buy any products, even my t-shirt company, Black Swan Tactical, if you use code Liberty at blackswantactical.com and buy a t-shirt, you get 10% off. All the profits for that go to that too. $5 super chat, $5 Patreon gets you this nice little no quarter for tyrants patch. I can get you one out if you want one. No charge.
No. We'll make a donation.
No need. So I want to give you the final word. And after the final word, just stick around for a minute. So yeah, the final word is yours.
Just follow us at Mark Robinson for NC, markrobinsonfornc.com. That's my website.
If it's
decide to go there,
the word for
it's the word for FOR. markrobinson4nc.com.
Yeah, talking to politicians is about a 50-50 split, whether you do the number
the number or the word. That's right. That's right. You can also follow us on Facebook at Mark Robinson for NC. Just spread the word about our campaign, folks. We are super excited. We got a lot of momentum going on in this race. We want to keep that momentum up. If you like what you heard today, please share it with other folks and let them know about our campaign and let them know that I'm running and support us all that you can. But
coming out on AmmoLand, which this video will be attached to.
That's right. Yes. That's right. Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks, Mark. I'm going to play the outro and just hang on for 1 second. That was Mark Robinson.